Today, we're doing a deep dive into a concept from our research material that honestly sounds like pure science fiction, but maybe isn't. We're talking about something conceptualized as the orbital annihilator.
Hmm.
And our mission here is really to unpack this idea, look at the specifics of this hypothetical weapon. How might it actually work? What's its reach? And crucially, what are the geopolitical ripples, maybe even waves, that the research suggests this could cause?
Yeah, and it's true. A name like Orbital Annihilator definitely brings dramatic images to mind, maybe from the movies.
Yeah.
But the physics underneath it all, as the material we looked at shows, is, well, it's grounded in real science. So understanding this, it isn't just some tech curiosity. It feels like a pretty critical discussion for grasping, potential future security situations and
Right.
how space fits into that whole delicate balance.
Right. So let's start with the basics. Let's try and get our heads around what this orbital annihilator thing is. The documents seem to describe it as a pretty formidable platform, like a big space station maybe, but in low Earth orbit, LEO, or maybe medium Earth orbit, MEO. But it's clear this isn't for looking at stars or doing microgravity experiments, right?
Absolutely not. No, the research is very clear. Its purpose is singular, destructive. Its core, its heart, is a really powerful particle accelerator. We're talking potentially tens of meters long. And it's not just any accelerator. It's specifically built to speed up hydrogen ions, protons, basically to speeds really close to the speed of light, which is what makes it what they call a neutral particle beam weapon.
A neutral particle beam weapon. Okay. That sounds incredibly powerful. So what happens when this beam, these protons traveling near light speed, what happens when they actually hit a target? What kind of damage are we really looking at? Is there anything that could stop that?
Well, that's the key thing. See, unlike lasers that mostly, burn or vaporize the surface, these high-energy neutral particles, they're designed to go deep.
Right into the target's material.
So not just skin deep. Exactly. They don't just scorch the outside. They deposit their energy throughout the target's whole volume.
Yeah.
What that means is the collisions, the particles hitting the atoms inside the target, generate this intense, almost instantaneous heat.
Wow.
Yeah, think internal components just melting.
Yeah.
Fuel tanks suddenly igniting. Sensitive electronics completely fried. The material describes it almost like a fundamental internal failure. Like imagine a missile's fuel tank just flashing to vapor, causing this massive rupture from the inside out. It's designed to get around a lot of the usual defenses.
That kind of internal destruction, it sounds almost impossible to shield against effectively. And it's not just the destructive power itself, but the sheer reach of this thing that starts to paint a really worrying picture. What kind of range are we talking about? This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
In space, in a vacuum without air getting in the way, the theoretical range is just huge, honestly. The analyses we have suggest effective ranges in the thousands of kilometers, maybe 1,000 up to, well, over 10,000 kilometers?
10,000 kilometers.
Potentially. Even the more conservative estimates, for reliable kills, they still point to hundreds, maybe thousands of kilometers. The big takeaway is that just one of these platforms sitting in LEO or MEO could effectively cover a massive chunk of the Earth's surface. It's a global reach weapon.
Okay, to really understand what that means, let's walk through a scenario. The research outlines a hypothetical, right? Let's say the orbital annihilator detects an enemy ICBM launching. It's in that boost phase, that really critical window just after liftoff.
Right, that boost phase is key. So the sequence would be incredibly fast. From orbit, maybe thousands of kilometers away, the platform's sensors lock onto that rising missile. Almost instantly, an invisible beam of these high-energy particles streaks through space. Silent, invisible. Yeah. And crucially, because it's particles, not light, it penetrates the missile's outer skin. It bypasses things like reflective coatings meant to stop lasers.
Ah, okay. So laser defenses wouldn't work.
Probably not effectively, no. Once inside, those particles dump energy, rapidly heating the propellant, the fuel. That causes it to detonate, essentially. The ICBM, still climbing, just becomes this uncontrollable fiery wreck. It breaks apart long before it can ever release its warheads. Detection to destruction in moments.
Wow! That sequence, the speed, the lethality, it completely changes the game for missile defense, doesn't it? Which brings us to, I think, the biggest question the research raises. What does this all mean for global stability, for the world? The material frames this as potentially one of the most destabilizing yet maybe also transformative developments imaginable.
Yeah, if you connect the dots, deploying something like this with that kind of global reach, It almost certainly triggers a massive new arms race. And the research suggests this isn't just, more missiles versus more interceptors. It could fundamentally change what we mean by strategic deterrence.
How so?
Well, it could create these weird paradoxical situations where the ultimate defense system actually makes nations more likely to consider a first strike. And think about the cost, the sheer economic strain on countries that can't build or buy these things.
Mm-hmm.
It would just widen the power gap enormously, create huge distrust.
But couldn't you argue the other way? That it's the ultimate deterrent. Maybe it enhances stability by making nuclear missile attacks just not feasible anymore. Could it actually make the world safer by taking ICBMs off the table?
That's the complex part, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really important question. On paper, yes, you could argue it's purely defensive, designed to stop attacks.
Yeah.
But the research also points out how it just completely shifts the balance of power. It could easily lead to a very dangerous use it or lose it mentality. If one country thinks it can disarm another from orbit without consequences, well, that's a recipe for extreme instability.
Right.
The problem, especially in space, is that the line between offense and defense gets incredibly blurry very quickly. What one nation sees as a protective shield, another is definitely going to see as a gun pointed at its head. It just upends that whole delicate strategic balance we've lived with.
And are there other things it could do besides shooting down missiles?
Oh, absolutely. The information indicates it would be a very potent anti-satellite weapon, an ASAT.
Okay.
It could disable or outright destroy an adversary's satellites, cripple their communications, their navigation like GPS, their intelligence gathering, basically blind them.
So space itself becomes the battlefield.
Exactly, a primary battle space. And the consequences could be catastrophic, not just militarily, but for everyone. Think about how much we rely on satellites.
Banking, weather, communication.
All of it. GPS, financial networks, weather forecasting. A conflict in space could create debris fields, knock out critical infrastructure. Some talk about a potential digital dark age if things really escalated. So yeah, while it might look like a game changer for missile defense, it's still a system projecting energy at things in space. It just fundamentally blurs those lines between peaceful space use and military domination. It forces a global conversation, a reckoning, really, about the future of war in space.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. Our deep dive shows this orbital annihilator concept, while maybe hypothetical for now, is scientifically plausible. It's this powerful orbital platform armed with a particle accelerator capable of incredible range and devastating internal damage to targets like ICBMs. The capabilities are immense, but the research also really underscores these profound, deeply unsettling potential consequences for global stability and the arms race.
Absolutely. And deploying something like this would immediately challenge existing space treaties, wouldn't it? Questions about weaponization in space become unavoidable. It would almost certainly accelerate a dangerous, probably unpredictable new arms race. And, as we touched on, it would profoundly impact nations without the resources to compete, creating potentially even greater global divides and a much more uncertain future for everyone.
Which leaves us and you with a final thought to chew on. What does the potential for something like the orbital annihilator, even just as a concept, mean for how you think about the future? How does it change your view of global security, of technology's role in our most delicate strategic balances? How might the idea of an ultimate defense reshape the very meaning of deterrence, especially in what really is humanity's final frontier?